The hallway was too quiet for a Monday morning. Monique Taylor had walked through these halls for the last 7 years. Rows of clean lockers, perfect bulletin boards, laminated test scores posted like war medals. But that morning, something felt sterilized, as if the life had been drained out of it. She tightened her grip on the binder in her hand. Inside were reports she'd stayed up all weekend compiling. Attendance patterns, grade anomalies, withdrawals of low-performing students, all conveniently right before state testing windows. She wasn't supposed to have access to that data. But Monique had never played by the silent rules. As she stepped into the teacher's lounge, 3 heads turned and quickly turned back. Conversations died mid-sentence. The hum of the vending machine filled the space like a warning. She took a breath and poured her coffee. "Morning," she said, her voice calm, measured. No reply. She sipped slowly, eyes watching her colleagues in the mirror across the room. Mr. Halberd looked like he wanted to speak. His lip twitched, then he just left, leaving his untouched yogurt behind. By third period, the emails started. "Miss Taylor, per district policy, please refrain from engaging with students regarding non-academic topics. Reminder, any data outside your purview is subject to review by administration. Your attendance is required at an HR meeting this Friday at 2:30 p.m. The pressure was subtle, professional, but Monique had grown up understanding what professional threats looked like. She'd seen them used on her mother when the housing board tried to rezone black families out of town. She'd heard them whispered to her brother when he challenged the police report after being stopped for fitting a description. Professional didn't mean harmless. After lunch, she found her classroom door already open. Principal Vaughn stood at her whiteboard, arms folded, looking at the roster she'd written that morning. "Quite a few withdrawals lately, huh?" he said without turning. Monique didn't flinch. "Yes, and most of them were students of color with GPAs under 2.0. Funny how they all transferred just before testing season." He turned then, slowly, with a smile so smooth it felt sanded. "You know, Miss Taylor, sometimes people see patterns where there are none. That's how conspiracy theories start." She held his gaze. "And sometimes people hide behind patterns to protect corruption." There it was, the moment that couldn't be undone. He stepped closer. "Careful, Monique, you have a good reputation here. It'd be a shame if that changed." She smiled. "It already has." That evening, Monique sat at her kitchen table, scrolling through news clippings of charter school fraud cases, whistleblower lawsuits, and education cover-ups. Her laptop buzzed with an encrypted message from her student, Lewis. "Miss T, I found the footage you asked for. It's from the cameras by the counselor's office. They told Jordan he should drop out because he was dragging the school down. I clipped the audio. You want it?" Monique stared at the screen, heart racing. She knew what this meant. Retaliation was certain. Smears, maybe worse. But it also meant something else. The silence was cracking. And when silence starts to crack, sometimes it screams. Friday came wrapped in clouds, the kind that didn't rain, just hovered, like a warning not everyone could hear. Monique dressed carefully that morning. Navy blazer, crisp white shirt, a single gold pin her mother had given her. "Dignity speaks louder when the room tries to mute you," her mother had said. At 2:30 sharp, she walked into the HR office. There were 2 people waiting. Susan Greaves, the district's HR liaison, pale lipstick, tighter smile, and Principal Vaughn, of course, his tie slightly loosened like he was about to settle a debt. "Miss Taylor," Susan greeted, "thank you for coming. This meeting is informal. We just want to clear up a few concerns about your recent behavior." Monique sat down. By behavior, do you mean asking questions about students being forced out? Vaughn's jaw twitched. There is no such policy. Then you won't mind if I ask how 7 students with identical academic flags withdrew within 3 days of each other, she replied, producing a chart from her folder. Susan didn't take it. She folded her hands. This isn't an investigation, Miss Taylor. It's a discussion. Monique leaned in. Then let's discuss why Luis Gomez's camera privileges were revoked after he started helping me. That cracked the veneer. Vaughn cut in. You're breaching student privacy. You accessed confidential records without clearance. This alone is grounds for suspension. Monique smiled calmly. Actually, Section 504 of the Education Rights Act allows teachers to report discriminatory patterns, especially those affecting protected student classes. Susan blinked. Vaughn looked like a man who just lost his footing mid-sentence. And Monique, for the first time, felt the tremble shift to the other side of the room. When she left the building, her phone buzzed again. Luis. Miss T. The clip's out. It hit 10K shares in 2 hours. Students are tagging the school with hashtag #WeAreNotScores. Another buzz. Jordan's mom. I saw what you're doing. God bless you, Monique. Let me know how I can help. And another. Unknown number. You're playing with fire. Don't be the match. She stared at that one. No ID. No context. No surprise. That night, Monique couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind, her mind twisted them into footsteps, phones clicking on, emails being drafted to ruin her. But in the corner of her room, on the small bookshelf passed down from her grandmother, sat a journal, pages yellowed, spine cracked. It held stories of women who refused to be erased. Nurses, janitors, bus drivers, Black women who turned small actions into tidal waves. She opened it to the back, took a pen, and wrote, "Let them come, but I won't leave. Not quietly." In the silence of that room, something shifted. Not fear, not defiance, purpose. And when purpose takes root, not even systems can hold it down. Monday morning arrived like thunder wrapped in linen, loud beneath the surface, soft above. The school board hadn't issued a statement. Principal Vaughn hadn't made eye contact, but the air around Monique Taylor had changed. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier. Her classroom door had a new smudge, faint like someone tried to rub off a message too late. She stared at it for a long moment before walking in. Inside, her students sat with a strange energy. They weren't chatting, they weren't distracted, they were watching. Monique set her bag down, turned to face them, and raised an eyebrow. Luis cleared his throat. "Ms. T, we saw the video. All of it." She said nothing, just waited. Another girl, Erica, raised her hand slowly. "Why didn't anyone stop them before?" That landed like a stone in the room. Monique nodded. "Because systems don't break themselves. People do. And most people are afraid of what they might lose." A silence, thick and sacred, fell over the room. Then Erica stood up, followed by Luis. Then all 17 students rose and in near unison placed printed sheets on her desk, letters, statements, screenshots, evidence. Some had heard counselors suggest transfers. Others had been called hopeless. One had secretly recorded a meeting where an administrator referred to students we can't polish. It was more than Monique expected, and it was enough to expose everything. At lunch, she met quietly with a teacher from another wing, Ms. Darla Nunez, an older Latina who'd taught there for 26 years. "You know they'll come after you," Darla said, eyes hard. "They already are." Darla looked down at her hands. "I've kept quiet a long time, Monique. I've seen students pushed out, teachers pressured, families silenced. I thought if I stayed, I could at least protect a few." Monique reached out gently. "You still can, but not by staying quiet." Darla looked up. "Then let's raise some hell." That night, Luis posted the second video, this time with statements from students, signed and dated. The clip went viral within hours. The hashtag grew, not just scores, students, not stats. Silence is complicity. A local news anchor picked up the story. By morning, school district officials were scrambling to control the narrative. They claimed the videos were edited. They called the students misled. They suspended Monique indefinitely. But they were too late. Because silence, once cracked, is contagious. And now it was breaking everywhere. The official suspension letter came on Tuesday morning. No phone call, no conversation, just an envelope. Pending internal investigation for breach of protocol and unauthorized student engagement. The irony made Monique chuckle. They didn't suspend her for what she did. They suspended her for what she exposed. She folded the letter, slid it into her purse, and looked out the window. A storm was coming. Thick clouds rolled in over the city, and for once she welcomed the thunder. By noon, her name trended locally on social media. Hashtag Stand with Miss Taylor flooded timelines. Former students posted testimonials. "She made me believe I could go to college. She called me by my real name when no one else did. She stayed after school to tutor me when my parents worked nights." At first it was just students. Then came parents. Then educators from other schools. Monique didn't ask for a movement, but movements don't always need permission. They need truth. And hers was now louder than the walls they built to contain it. That afternoon, a reporter knocked on her door. Delilah Ortiz, young, ambitious, fire in her voice, a junior correspondent from Houston Today. "I want to tell your story, the real one, unfiltered," Delilah said. "I think they'll smear me harder after this," Monique hesitated. Delilah smiled. "They already are. Might as well give them a reason." They met in a local library meeting room. No glamour, no lights, just a voice recorder, 2 cups of lukewarm coffee, and pages of documents Monique had kept hidden for years. She told it all. The whispered quotas, the forced dropouts, the academic polishing strategy that rewarded numbers over humanity. Delilah listened, wide-eyed. At one point she whispered, "They'll come after me too." Monique nodded. "They always do. But the thing about buried voices," she tapped the table softly, "they echo louder underground." The story aired online within 48 hours. Headline: Whistleblower Teacher Exposes Dark Side of Elite School System. We Are Not Scores. By Friday, it reached national platforms. MSNBC, NPR, even late-night hosts made subtle nods. The district panicked. Their official press release blamed a miscommunication. But by then, the community didn't want explanations. They wanted justice. Outside Monique's home, chalk messages appeared on the sidewalk. "Thank you for speaking. You gave us a voice. You didn't bury the truth, you planted it." Monique stood at her window, tears in her eyes. For the first time, she realized this wasn't about saving her job. It was about saving others from the silence that nearly swallowed her. The summons arrived not in a mailbox, but in an inbox. From Texas State Board of Education. Subject: Request to appear. Emergency hearing on educational ethics. Monique read the words 3 times. She had never been in a courtroom. Now she was about to stand before one, armed with documents, stories, and 17 brave students behind her. 2 days later, the hearing room was full. On one side, district lawyers, polished and proud. On the other, Monique, dressed in that same navy blazer and gold pin, the one her mother gave her for courage. Behind her sat Darla Nunez, the students, several parents, and even Delilah Ortiz, scribbling fiercely in a notebook. A white-haired board member cleared his throat. "Miss Taylor, you may begin." Monique stood up slowly. No notes, no stutters. "I was hired to educate students, not discard them. But somewhere along the way, performance metrics became more important than people, and we started grooming data, not children." She handed over the folder. Inside were timeline reports of forced withdrawals, emails from admin pushing for low-tier student exits, audio clips courtesy of Luis showing counselors coercing families, a spreadsheet, 23 students removed, all from low-income or minority backgrounds. Silence dropped like a verdict. The district's legal team tried to spin it. She violated privacy policies. These students were offered alternatives. The data is misrepresented. But then came the witnesses. One by one, students stood up. Luis, Erica, Jordan, even Shy Marcus, whose voice cracked but never broke. They made me feel invisible. They told my mom I didn't belong. Miss Taylor believed in me before I knew how to believe in myself. Some board members looked away. Others stared. And then Darla took the stand. I stayed silent for years. I thought being in the system would protect the kids, but silence only shields the guilty. By the end of the hearing, the chairperson looked stunned. "We'll need time to deliberate, but I believe the truth has spoken louder than any protocol today." Outside, the sun broke through stormy skies. Monique stepped into the light, surrounded by students. "Did we win?" Luis asked. She smiled. "We spoke. That's how winning begins." 3 weeks had passed since the hearing. The school district had issued a formal apology. Principal Vaughn was placed on administrative leave. Several senior officials resigned voluntarily. And Monique Taylor? She turned down the offer to return, not because she was bitter, but because the classroom she once knew had outgrown 4 walls. She now spoke at town halls, at education reform panels, on national news shows, on podcasts with titles like Truth in the Classroom and The Teacher Who Said No. But her favorite place was still in front of students, just not in one school. Instead, Monique founded the Bridge Project, a grassroots initiative providing mentorship, advocacy training, and legal aid for students pushed out of the system. Lewis was the first youth coordinator. Erica handled social media. Marcus helped organize outreach for ESL families. What had begun with silence had become a chorus. One morning, Monique received a letter, handwritten in careful cursive. "Dear Ms. Taylor, my daughter was one of the students forced to leave your school last year. We never understood why until we saw your story. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for making the world listen. Because of you, she believes in herself again. A mother who will never forget." Later that week, she visited the now infamous school. The hallway walls had been repainted. There were new posters, "Every Student Matters," and "We Rise Together." But Monique didn't walk in. She stood outside the gates, watching students pour out, laughing, loud, unafraid. Darla stood beside her. "Do you think it'll last?" the older teacher asked. Monique took a deep breath. Not unless we keep teaching the truth." She smiled. "But at least now, the silence knows our names."